My name is Aleksa Milovanović. I'm from University of Belgrade. Also, this was a joint contribution with my colleague from the Czech Academy of Sciences, Tomáš Babinský. So our topic is about the effect of infill density on fracture toughness results of FDM PLA material. So the presentation plan is to introduce you with the FDM parameter influence, to tell you something about fracture toughness standard we use usually, the testing procedure applied here, and some concerns about K1C calculation and which conditions you have to meet for the test to be valid. There are also exact results for each infill density concerning tensile data. There was also an analysis of the crack path direction. So we are sure that the crack path was straight with no angulations or so. Then some CTOD results, optical and SEM microscopies, and we'll show you something what we used concerning the J integral. And then we'll conclude and show you what will be the following research on this topic. So concerning the FDM parameters and their influence, we've discussed it a lot in the project we were a part of, Professor Milošević, Professor Razavi. So and how the parameters actually influence the mechanical results. But here we'll focus on infill density, which is quite beneficial for the use of the 3D printing in industry or any other application. For example, if you need a lightweight constructions, or if you want to carry something like in biomedical, you can use such constructions for some drug carriers or so on. So here are the specimens for the fracture toughness with the full infill, somewhere in the middle, like 50%, and the 10%, like the lowest we used here. Here are some parameters we used, which were constant through the all batches we used. So we use the ASTM standard. Here are the dimensions of our specimens. So we use the single edge notch bend specimens. The notch was 3D printed as suggested from some previous works on the Serum project. We used the pre-crack was applied via hammer tapping onto a razor, so as suggested by standard. So here here is the geometry of the razor we used. So and dimensions of and yeah, we used 10 different infill densities. So we used the whole spectra, which was possible in the slicer software, from 10 to 100% with the 10% increment. So 10 different cases. And sorry, just to point that the specimens were printed flat on the build platform. As an addition to the fracture toughness test, we also use the DIC camera. So if you can see, here is the tensile testing machine and the two set camera device. We also sprayed our SEMB specimens with a regular spray, just for the contrast for the DIC to capture the full field deformation from the front side. The strain rate was 5 millimeters per minute, as suggested by the standard. So we measured, we monitored the deflection force, deformation of this front surface of the specimen, and the CTOD data was also applied. So this was all conducted on 3-point bending rig. So from the data we have, so this is the load deflection response. So we followed the standard properly. We calculated the conditional fracture toughness value not on the basis of the maximum value, but basis on the conditional value, which is the value at the intersection of the 5% compliance from the linear segment of the curve. And the formula, so we use the conditional value, and concerning the validity of the test, we need to comply with this formula. So the maximum value only can exceed no more than 10% from this targeted conditional value, and also plane strain condition must be met according to the formula. So at every infill density, 100%, 50%, and so on, the conditional value was divided by a yield stress of that particular infill density. So we didn't use like 100% for every specimen. We used proper data for every to see if the plane strain condition according to this formula is valid. Just some results, the force displacement data from 100, 70, 40, and 10, we see that there is, with lower infill densities, the force values are lower. If we look from up to down and next to 10%. At 50%, we see, well, we don't have a diagram here, but from this ratio of maximum and conditional value, we see that one specimen exceeded this value and is invalid for fracture toughness results. But after, from 40 to 10%, if we look from the higher to the lower infill, we see that this force value condition fails. And now, according to our results, so this is the full data of the 0.1 millimeter layer height. So these all results I'm presenting here are from the 0.1 layer height. So we see that all these from 40 to 10 are invalid. This one specimen from the 50% batch was not valid, but still there were two valid specimens, and we used them as the result for the K1C. So in this matter, the K1C highest value is about 2.27 megapascal square root meter, and it goes down to, sorry, about 1.2 for the 50%. So here are some averaged curves from our data just until the maximum value. We see how the infill density actually influences on the load deflection data. So from the stiffest one is the 100%, and the lowest here and is the 10% one. That doesn't work now. But concerning these are the only 0.1 results. We also had 0.2 and 0.3 conducted in the same matter. We see that the layer height, just to point out that from the 80% infill on all three layer heights, we see there is not much of a difference in the results. So the main focus here is on the infill density. Now the tensile data for the sigma y. So we here are the results for the 100% infill on all three layer heights, and the results for 0.1 are placed here. Like for example, UTS or E, we see that the values go from 29 megapascal for the UTS up to 46, which is like the material property of the proper PLA 100 with the full infill inside. The elastic modulus goes from about 2 gigapascals to 3 concerning the infill density. Okay, I'm showing just this. We'll use these results for material modeling, like the professor from Brescia in M calibration. So you'll need some data with different strain rates to require a proper model. And concerning the plane strain condition, so according to all the data collected for the stress, we divided so the conditional fracture toughness value with the proper value of yield stress, and we see that actually all the results calculated are below this 10 millimeter limiting value, so that the thickness of our specimen was 10 millimeter, and all the specimens are well within this projected limit. So concerning plane strain condition, it was met for all the specimens if we just follow the formula. Concerning the crack path direction, this was also a matter. We used this virtual strain gauges. We placed 5 of them on the specimen ligament to see the deformation field. And from our previous works, we established that if you have this candle shape, so this is a diagram from the full length of this segment, we see that in the middle, the highest deformations are present for 100% infill and for 40%, meaning that actually the straight crack propagation is present in our specimens. Some of the CTOD results, just to point out that all of the specimens actually failed very quickly. I mean, just concerning the CTOD data, we didn't receive no more than 1 millimeter of the crack opening displacement at the tip. So actually, the tests were pretty fast, and even the crack propagation, the delta A, was quite small in this case. So as for the CTOD, we used delta 5 interpretation. And as we see on the diagram, sorry, does it work? The values go from about 0.2 up to 0.8 concerning the different infill densities. Now something about optical microscopy. So PLA, well, in literature findings, there's a lot of statement that PLA is actually a brittle material, which if you see the tensile specimen images of the fracture surfaces, that's this way. Okay, we see that the fracture surface is fairly brittle. And when we look at this 100% SEMB specimen, if we look at its fracture surface, we see, okay, on the optical microscopy image, how this infill looks like. So we used 100%, but still we use the honeycomb structure, just to point that out. And we see that in between these structures, there are certain voids. So even though we used 100%, it was impossible for the machine to actually create a full density specimen. So this is the main problem with all the FDM, all the commercial FDM printers. I'm not sure about the industry grade printers, but this is the main case, and this will create, you know, problems to actually measure exactly as it should be the delta A. Yeah, because you'll have jumps, and you see from the more zoomed image, these voids, like it's like the center of the hexagon. And I'll show you just 2 images of the SEM microscopies. So with the 90% infill, you can see it here. Sorry, the fractured filaments were actually failed in brittle manner. Alas, the 50% ones had some plastic deformation at, you know, this fractured parts. So with lowering the infill density, it also results on the fracture surface of this type of specimens. So in our results from 100 to 50, we could interpret our results with K1C, but from 40 to 10, we had to use some different interpretations. For this conference paper, we'll show you just one simple parameter concerning the J max, so the maximum J integral value calculated from the total surface of the specimen. And
sorry to interrupt. So you can
I will. So the total value was corrected by this indentation. So we used the proper results. Like this is the regular test. This is the indentation, and the J max value is just to show here the results, just to compare from 40 to 10%, but the real value should be at 0.2. So the K1C should be measured at the 0.2 crack propagation. Just some results here concerning the J0. So this is the J without the crack propagation. The next one is J max. So we see that from 100 to 50%, there is a steady value. And at 40, due to inherent plasticity, we have higher value of this final dot on the JR curve. So this J max value we called. And after 10%, you have a sudden drop and pretty low values. Just to conclude, so we've seen that there is some inherent plasticity at 40% onward. If you look at the lower infill, so from 40 to 10%, there's some inherent plasticity, and K1C is not liable for result interpretation. So we used J integral from the data we already have. We have this, we calculated the J max, and the following will be the JR curve, and finally, you know, establishing the J1C. And just for the following research, we'll try to do to create a JR curve on base of the one specimen. We'll use the CTOD data and somehow use the final delta A, and that's how we'll use the propagation. That's how we'll measure delta A, because as I already mentioned, it's quite almost impossible to measure delta A when you have this sort of a structure inside of a specimen. So we'll calculate the J1C and measure the KJC. We'll have proper K1 results and the other results with the J, and we'll see if the KJC actually overestimates or underestimates the K1C values. Okay, that's all.